In this video, I'm going to show you how to place your throttle body on this Toyota Camry with the 2.5 liter 2AR engine. Let's get started. You'll see the airbox cover here. I'm going to pop these clips off and then you should be able to lift it up and out. I'm going to take the air filter out. Now use a 10mm socket. Loosen up this clamp, just like that. Unplug the mass airflow sensor. Now you can lift this up and take this off, set it aside. Over here, let's remove this PCV hose. Twist that hose off, and you don't have to pull it off of the valve cover if you don't want to. Twist it out of the way like that. With a Phillips head screwdriver, remove this Phillips head screw that holds on this right here. If it's stuck like mine is, we're gonna have to just unplug it. Hopefully yours is not stuck because it avoids a couple steps, but if it is, unplug it and pop the hose off. This will free it up, allow you to pull this away without having to take that screw out. There's another hose underneath. Pinch the clamp and pull it off. And this hose that we just disconnected also has a retainer back there, so push that away. This is going to be pretty much impossible to see, even for me, but there's a clamp just like this one on the bottom, right on that throttle body. I'm gonna bring my 10mm in there, turn it counterclockwise to loosen it up. Once you spin it a few turns, it should be loose enough to be able to pop this off. Okay. Lift this up and out. On the back here, you'll have an electrical connector. You can pop the boot off if you want, and you can get better access to the locking tab. Squeeze it and unplug this. At the front here, remove this fuel line from this bracket. And now, 4 10mm bolts hold this on. Let's take all 4 out. Lift up the throttle body. You'll have 2 hoses connected to it still. They are coolant hoses. And what I'm going to do at this point, and I waited on purpose up until right now so that I can pull this out a little bit more, is I'm going to grab some pliers and squeeze them so that as I pop the clamps off and slide the hoses off, they will not leak much coolant at all. I will lose a couple drops, but really that should be just fine. Gonna get some needle nose pliers in here. Try to pinch this clamp. There we go. Nope. All right. Well, that one leaked a little bit and then it stopped. So for now, I'm just gonna leave it up here since it stopped leaking. Now we can get to the other one on the bottom. Give it a couple twists back and forth. That should help it break free. And pull this out. Be prepared to plug the hose if it starts leaking a bunch. There we go. And there's your throttle body. Now if you had a new throttle body, you would take the throttle body and slide it back into position here. I'm going to start with the hose that I ended with. Grab that hose with some needle nose pliers so I can hold it while I push the throttle body on it. There we go. Now let's get that clamp on. I like to line up the clamps with exactly where they came from. That gives them the best chance of sealing up again. Now let's get the upper hose back on. I'm going to do the same thing. Hold it with pliers, slide it on, make sure it's bottomed out. Just like that. And let's get the clamp over again. right here. Perfect. I'm just gonna get this fuel line reattached here because it keeps wanting to go back in. Now get your bolts back in, start them on by hand. You don't want these to cross thread. The torque on these is 7 foot-pounds. If you can't torque them, just make them nice and snug by hand, and that should be plenty tight. I'm also going in a cross pattern to make sure that this seats evenly. I'm going to check them again. All right, get the electrical connector reconnected. If you want to put the boot on now and then clip it on, that's fine. Or you can just put the connector on without the boot and then slide the boot over. It's up to you. I'm going to put the boot on now because it's easier. And then slide this on. Make sure that clicks. That was a nice loud click, so I'm sure it did. Put the air intake ducting back in. Make sure it's seated on that throttle body all the way down. And once you aim it in the right direction, take your 10mm and tighten up that bolt that holds the clamp on. This is going to be the more difficult part because you can't see it, but also make sure you don't over tighten it, because if you do, it'll actually break the clamp, so you just want to make it nice and snug. All right, that's getting snug. Give it a couple more turns, and that's probably good right there. Just a little bit of pressure on it, just so I can have this not pop off while the engine is moving around and vehicle's driving. Put this hose back on. Make sure that's bottomed out completely. Get that clamp back on. There was one hose that was secured on that retainer there that went on the bottom underneath this. Press it on all the way and put the clamp back on. And then there was the hose on the side of it. Get that reconnected all the way and clamp, and of course the electrical connector. Make sure that clicks. Get your air filter reinstalled. If you need a new one, replace it now. This is a good time. Mine's good, so I'm reusing it. Now when you put the air filter housing back, there are supposed to be 2 clips here, or 2 hooks basically, that will hook these tabs on. Well, my hooks are broken, unfortunately, so this technically needs a new air box, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to reinstall this, and I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that these are supposed to get clipped in. Otherwise, the air box will not seal up and you'll be sucking up dirty air as the vehicle drives down the road, which defeats the purpose of the air filter. So, slide this down and into the air filter ducting there. If these clips don't hook on easily, that means things aren't lined up. They should kind of just fall into place and lock in. Reconnect your mass airflow sensor. Make sure that clicks. And I'm going to tighten up this clamp here to seal up the air filter. Once it bottoms out and gets snug, which is right about here, I'm just going to give it a couple extra turns. That's good. If you can't move this around, you're good to go. At this point, depending on how much coolant you lost, you may want to top it off here in the overflow tank. However, my overflow tank still has plenty of coolant in it, so I'm not worried about the couple drops that spilt on the ground there. If you lost a lot with a cold engine, open the radiator cap and top it off here, and then of course top it off in the overflow as well, and then run your engine and bleed the cooling system. But usually you should be good with just letting it take in whatever is in the overflow.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.